In number 23, we are asked to graph f of x equals 3 times the cube root of x plus 4. It's written in rational exponent notation, so x plus 4 to the 1/3 minus 2. We can write our equation in this form. And identify our a, h, and k. A equals 3. H equals -4. Remember, we always take the opposite of what we see in the parentheses with the x. And our k value, we write it right out of the equation as -2. We're going to have lots of transformations going on in this one. Let's set up our data table. Knowing that with a cube root function, our hk is our middle value. It's very helpful to know that, because then we can look one value before it and one value after it and expect to be able to take the cube root. Now, looking at the value before, if we plug in -5, we get -5 plus 4 is -1. The cube root of -1 is -1. Multiply that by the 3 outside the parentheses and you get -3, and -2 gives us -5. Let's plug in -3. -3 plus 4 is a +1 to the 1/3 is 1. Times 3 is 3 minus 2 is 1. These were values that it was easy to take the cube root of. Another value that it's easy to take the cube root of is -8. In order to have what's in parentheses equal -8, our x value would have to be -12. When x is -12, we add 4 to that, we get -8. Cube root is -2 times 3 is -6. Minus 2 is -8. Another value that it's easy to take the cube root of is 8. In order for what's in parentheses to equal 8, x would have to equal 4. That'll be the next value in our table. When x is 4, inside the parentheses we have 8. To the 1/3 is +2. Times 3 is 6, minus 2 is 4. This gives us 5 values. Even though they don't all fit on the graph, they do help us determine the shape of the graph and where the graph is going, even if it goes off of the grid. I'll start by plotting -5, -5. Then -4, -2, -3, +1, and then +4, 4. These 3 points are kind of the middle of the function. And then notice it takes a turn and then continues. Remember, the left side of our function is going to do exactly the same thing. It's going to come down a bit more and then turn off. Even though that left side is somewhat of a sketch because our values are off the graph, we do have the actual value in the table, and it does give us an idea of the shape of the graph and where we expect it to go. Let's look at domain and range. Because this is a cube root function, Notice it goes forever and ever in both directions, left and right. Also, it goes forever and ever in both directions, up and down. Therefore, domain and range, all real numbers. Let's discuss the transformations. A equals 3 tells us that our parent function has actually been stretched vertically by a factor of 3. If you don't know what the parent function looks like, please put it in your calculator or draw it separately so that you have an idea for comparison's sake. Stretched vertically by a factor of 3. H equals -4 says that our graph is going to shift in the negative direction for x. Remember, h is in the parentheses with x, so it affects x directly, which is left and right. With a value of -4, that would be left 4 units. K of -2, notice that k is outside the parentheses. It affects y directly, so that would mean it moves the graph up or down. In this case, it's going in the negative direction, which is down 2 units.